Hello students, I welcome you to Wonderbrook Book Reviews. My name is Dombe Derito and I will be delving into the analysis of Parliament of Owls, a play by Adipo Sidang. Before we get into the analysis of the book, I want us to have the background of the author. That is Adipo Sidang. And what other plays has he written? Or what other works of literature has he written, and how have they been critiqued? Or how have they been appreciated by the literary world? I'll be looking at the reason or the essence of having to analyze the author. Is it necessary to talk about the author when we are looking at the book or at the play, Parliament of Owls, a play? Is it necessary? Is it necessary to dig into his or her historical background, what kind of works that he has done before this? Is it necessary? We will see how important it is to understand the playwright. And that is where we're going to start with this, in this analysis of the text or the play, Parliament of Owls, a play by Adipo Sidang. Let us jump right into the background of the author. The author is a renowned playwright, a poet, an author, and a governance consultant. He has written other books and plays. In fact, Parliament of Owls is an adaptation of his anthology of poems by the same title, written in 2016. It was adopted in 2017 by his acting troupe called the Agora Theatre Group. And it was first acted in 2017. He gained recognition from that particular anthology of poetry. Before then, he could have written other materials, but the one that has brought him to the limelight is the collection of poetry by the same title. And this now adaptation of Parliament of Owls, a play, and the approval by Kenya Institute of Curriculum Development for this book to be tested or to be taught and tested in schools. It will be an optional text and will be tested in question 3, essay writing on Parliament of Owls. His work explores themes such as corruption, political leadership, justice, and social issues. That is what you will see in Parliament of Owls. He reflects on the issues affecting the population in the setting and in general. He has authored a novella, A Boy Called Koko, which won the Burt Award of Young Adult Literature. The novella was also shortlisted for the Jomo Kenyatta Prize for Literature in 2019. The Burt Award was given in 2017. We also see that he continues to contribute to the literary world through his collection of poems in his mother tongue called Abaramach. So basically, Adipo Sidang is a poet. And by, he has delved into other genres like the novella and the play. He has been involved in nurturing talents in the literary industry through his Agora Theatre group. His background in philosophy, with degrees from Abaniana University in Rome and University of Nairobi in Kenya, has given him an existential perspective. That is a perspective where he emphasizes individual freedom and responsibility. That is captured in Parliament of Owls, where the freedom of the other birds is explored. And the book looks at the oppression of the ruling owls in a critical way. In other words, Adipo Sidang could be advocating for freedom of everyone, what we are calling individual freedom, but that freedom comes with responsibility. In summary, Adipo Sidang is born in Uyoma, Siaya County. He has been a distinguished author, playwright, and poet. And he is also a consultant in governance issues and cultural issues. In 2016, he wrote an anthology of poetry by the title Parliament of Owls. And in 2017, the anthology was adapted into a play by the same title, Parliament of Owls, a play. And that is why we have the word a play at the end of the title, because there is Parliament of Owls, the anthology of poetry. We have also seen that he explores topics on leadership, political leadership, corruption, social issues, and justice. Some of his works, like A Boy Called Koko, has won literary awards. And finally, we have seen, because of his philosophical background, he explores or uses or exploits the approach we call existential approach, where individual freedom and responsibility are key. Then we need to ask ourselves, why do we need to know about the author or the playwright Adipo Sidang? As we shall see, or we have seen, it is important for us to know, for example, where he is born, because it may influence the way he thinks and the values he has adopted. 2, his education background gives us a clue as to why he is talking about individual freedoms and responsibility in his works. And we have also seen that this book is written in 2017, or the play is adapted in 2017. This is almost the same period when we have the elections in Kenya. That means that maybe the author is doing a critique of the 11th Parliament, which was coming to the tail end in the year 2017, because in August of 2017 in Kenya we had the general elections. Could he be talking about a parliament maybe that did not achieve, a parliament that was full of theater, a parliament that was corrupt? What is he trying to do? We want to ask ourselves the question, is it a manifestation of what is going on in the country of origin? Those are questions that we could ask. But allow me now to get deeper into the background of the author. Number one is we need to have contextual understanding. And in contextual understanding, I'm talking about what period of time, the historical context, what period of time is this person writing? And also the cultural context. From which culture is he coming from? Which worldview in terms of cultural issues are we talking about the content of the text? Number two, personal influences. Are there issues of life or beliefs or values that find themselves into this text? Are there major life events, significant life events that find themselves into the text? What about the general environmental influence? Could it be that the political environment in Kenya at the period that he's writing has influenced the way he has written the text? Could he be advocating for a better parliament? Could he be advocating for a responsible leadership? Could he be critiquing money bags, for example, because of the bravado that he exposes, or the issues that he espouses in order for him or for us to look at the society in a different way? Those are personal influences. We also look at the literary styles and techniques, and what kind of writing is he engaged in mostly. We have seen that Adipo is majorly a poet. When we are analyzing the literary techniques in Adipo's Parliament of Owls, could there be some issues that we will pick from his poetry background? We also see the recurring themes, and we have seen that in his work, majorly, we are talking about corruption, we are talking about political leadership, we are talking about issues to do with justice, we are talking about social issues that revolve around the common person. So, in other words, there are issues that we can say are recurring through his works. That's why we have to study his work. What about number four, intertextual connections? What are these intertextual connections? We see that there is a very big significance or a very big relationship between Parliament of Owls, a play, and Animal Farm. I know that some of you have studied Animal Farm and they have seen that the Animal Farm uses animal characters to stabilize the human behavior. And the same applies to Adipo Sidang's Parliament of Owls, where he uses the owls and birds and animals in the forest and the trees also to bring out the critique or satirize the political leadership in the nation. Number 5 is the psychological insight. There are issues that come out in the work that mirror what goes on in the mind of the writer. The writer comes from a background which feels alienated politically. And therefore, when he is creating his characters, he brings the characters who are going to oppose the powers that be and advocate for change and equality. He feels that in the community there are grievances, and these grievances are against the people who feel that they should always be in power. I don't want to take deeper approach to this, but the text brings out a community or a group of people who feel that they are entitled to leadership, as brought out by some of the characters like Red String, who says that they have they have a powerful or a better brain, a better intelligence to rule, as opposed to certain birds that can just fly low, like Osogo. So we are seeing a parallel between the cultural, the community where he comes from, and their grievance against the establishment of the setting and what we find in the text. Similarly, knowing the background of the author is going to give us the critical reception of his work. We have seen that his novella has won a prize. That places Adipo in a higher rank than the other upcoming writers. Finally, we empathize with the author and connect with the author when we know his background. That is, in essence, to say that he whom you know is easier to relate with than he who is distant. That is to say that we humanize his work when we know that he is human. We humanize his work when we know where he comes from, when we can relate well with him. That is why we need to know where he comes from. In summary of that section, why do we study the background of the author? Number 1 is contextual understanding, both historical and cultural. Number 2 is the personal influences. Ask ourselves the personal influences, the way he is brought up, the life experiences, and beliefs and values. Do they find themselves in the text? We also see the literary styles and techniques that he uses across his work. Is there similarity? Are there things that are mirroring others in different texts? Is it easier for us to understand the way he writes when we know what he has written? We also see, number 4, the intertextual connections. Like we have seen the similarity between Parliament of Owls, a play, and Animal Farm by George Owens. It is also incumbent upon us to know that there are certain psychological insights that could come by us knowing the history or the background of the author. That is to say that people are dictated by what they believe and the psychology that influence their lives. Then number 6, we also saw the critical reception. Critical reception is how have the literary critics taken the work of art by this author or playwright or poet. It is to say that if work has been approached positively by the critics, it is easier to adapt and accept. And finally, we need to study the background of the author in order to empathize and connect. When we know an author, it is easier to relate with that author. It is easier to relate with the feelings that are brought up in the text. That is why we have to look at the background of the author, and that is why we have looked at Adipo Sidang's background and how it relates to Parliament of Owls, a play. In the next lesson, I will be looking at Parliament of Owls, the title. What is the significance of the title? What kind of a title is it? Is it just a plain title? Is it symbolic? Is it ironic? We are going to look at the depth of the title. But before we conclude this lesson, allow me to ask you to analyze this question. You can take a piece of paper and write this question and attempt it. And you can comment on the comment section below on what you think about this. How has the play Parliament of Owls been influenced by the author's history? How has the play Parliament of Owls been influenced by the author's history? We are going to end there. Thank you for watching this program, and until next time, goodbye and God bless.